This is effectively a portrait project based on youth culture. So he starts off with a very effective title page and some information about youth culture and adolescence. Interest in presentation, some words about what it feels like to be adolescent, what it feels like to be a teenager. Got some painting work, some drawing work. Got some of the areas where people hang out. Alleyways, the darkness, symbolic of a troubled youth. If we look at his initial prep work, we don't see very high quality work in his sketchbook. It's not many detailed drawings, detailed paintings, etc. But then if we look at his work for the exhibition, we see some very strong skills in pencil and paint, etc. Decided to look at the artist James Rosenquist, who's an American artist with roots in pop art. So he's looking at Rosenquist's very colourful work here and the way he combines images. Information on Rosenquist's style and technique. And then some more detailed information and an analysis and a copy of a piece of work, etc. Where his work tends to be influenced by Rosenquist is he starts to take photos and edit those images in the style of Rosenquist, taking the idea of very bright, colourful aspects of Rosenquist's work by having graffiti images in the background. And you can see he's developing this idea of youth culture. The idea that adolescence is dangerous, risky in some ways. There are temptations like alcohol, but there's also a strong sense of friendship and loyalty, as well as the opposite, betrayal, etc., when one is in one's teenage years. And if we look at some of the work for his development work, again we can see some of this idea of the bright coloured graffiti in the background and the figures, which are based on photographs he's taken himself. The idea of these two figures at the top of the steps is also kind of symbolic, if you like, of betrayal and loneliness, which some teenagers certainly experience. Then if we go on and look at his developing his ideas towards his final piece, we have him pushing this idea forward of desperation and loneliness. There's some good watercolor work. He's got some secondary images here from films, but he's also got images he's taken himself. To develop these ideas further. What's clever about this project, he's moving away from the bright colours of Rosenquist, which is the meaning of colours, and what colours will represent certain things like anxiety and depression and sort of dark feelings, etc. And one can see he's come up with a final image, which is this idea of intimidation and loneliness, and he's got this figure who is obviously a bit battered and bruised at the bottom of the step, and he's got these two figures in the background which we saw in earlier pieces of work. He talks about gangs, and he talks about betrayal, and he talks about intimidation and fear, these figures towering over him, which again links with one of the key themes to do with youth culture which he has developed in this project. And obviously if we see the final piece, again a very strong final piece. As a project, the ideas and some of the personal interpretation of themes to do with adolescence is level 9. Some of the sketchbook work perhaps not quite as good, and again a final piece which is again borderline level 9, pretty strong. But what is particularly strong about this project is its underlying meaning and how much he has thought about the work and made it personal to himself.